What is up, y'all? It's Noria. It's no news here on my channel that I bullet journal. I use it as a way to kind of organize my thoughts, to learn more about myself, and it has also functioned as a creative outlet for me. I started thinking recently that I actually don't know a lot of people in my own personal life that bullet journal. This is of course excluding the friends that I've made in the bullet journal community. And it's kind of sad because I think bullet journaling can be really helpful for anyone, and I definitely want to see more people try it or at least learn about it so they can know what it is. I understand there may be some people who are already familiar with the concept but may not be able to properly define it or describe it. So if you're interested in learning more about bullet journaling and whether or not you should try it, definitely keep on watching. I do want to add that I'm no bullet journaling expert, so everything that I mention here is mostly from experience and just a little bit of research. Anyways, let's get into it. First, let's talk about the definition and history. Simply put, a bullet journal is a DIY planner. The bullet part of the name is because you would usually use a dot grid journal, and the dots kind of look like bullet points. But it also comes from the fact that the inventor of the bullet journal, Ryder Carroll, used a key of bullet points / symbols to denote the status of his tasks. Ryder Carroll was previously a product designer that wanted to practice mindfulness as a productivity system. He spent years developing the bullet journal method as a tool to aid his ADHD, but also help him find purpose in life after a successful yet unfulfilling career. In 2013, Carroll launched bulletjournal.com, where he posted a video tutorial with step-by-step instructions, and it soon garnered attention and eventually went viral. In 2014, he launched a Kickstarter to gain funds to build a new website, as well as release an official bullet journal notebook that was made in partnership with the very well-known stationery brand Leuchtturm. In Ryder Carroll's bullet journal method, there are 5 main features. The first feature is rapid logging, which is using a predetermined key made up of bullets and symbols to denote status on tasks, as mentioned before. The second is a daily log, where you can record your daily notes, tasks, and events. The third is a weekly log, which is a planning space for your week. The fourth is a monthly log, which is a planning space for your month. And the fifth is a future log, which is actually a more recent addition compared to the other 4. The future log is where you map out your yearly calendar so you can look at all of your events and reminders at a glance. An important aspect of the bullet journal method is that you take the time to sit, think, and write. It's supposed to help you be present and relax your mind, especially if you struggle with stress or anxiety, and that's where the whole mindfulness aspect comes in. This is obviously just a summary, but if you're enticed by the idea of Ryder Carroll's bullet journal method, I highly recommend checking out his website, bulletjournal.com, and also the YouTube channel, Bullet Journal. They have information about how you can set up these spreads, and they do a great job of explaining everything you need to know and more. It's actually been a decade now since the bullet journal method was invented. It was created in 2013 and now it's 2023. Lots of bullet journal communities have formed and grown since then. I don't remember how I got into bullet journaling exactly, but I do remember that the first person I ever watched on YouTube who bullet journaled was AmandaRachLee, and if you don't know who she is, she's probably considered to be one of the biggest, if not the most popular, bullet journal content creators in the space today. Many of the spreads that I use today I actually discovered through YouTube or Instagram, such as a brain dump and a weekly tracker, and then some of the other spreads that I use are a calendar, monthly calendar / budget tracker hybrid, and a sleep tracker. Actually, out of those 5 spreads I mentioned from the original bullet journal method, the only one that I've consistently implemented is the future log, which basically shows one of the beauties and biggest perks of bullet journaling, which is the flexibility. And that leads me into my next point. Who is bullet journaling good for? If you're like me and you've looked at planners at big stores like Target, you've probably had a hard time finding a planner that suited your needs. I've avoided buying planners for most of my life because I could never find something that suited my style aesthetically or had useful spreads / spreads that I liked. If this problem sounds like something that you've struggled with or continue to struggle with, and you also like the act of physically writing things down, then I would highly consider getting into bullet journaling. Of course, there are other pros to consider, so let's go through some of them. The first one being, like I mentioned, flexibility is probably one of the biggest perks of bullet journaling. You can make the spreads that you need, You can leave out any that don't resonate with you, and you can make it so that the information that you're writing down is actually information that is relevant to you. And if you find out later that there's something you want to change, you can implement the change right away without having to buy a completely new notebook. Because bullet journaling is so flexible, that leads me into the second pro, which is that bullet journaling is very beginner friendly. You can start out with super simple spreads, and you don't even have to start out with that many. You could start out with just one if you really wanted to. And as you get more comfortable, you can add more spreads, or you can make them more complex, or both. And the third pro is that bullet journaling is very easy to get into because the barrier to entry is pretty low. The most basic of supplies you need is a notebook and a pen. A dot grid journal actually isn't necessary, but it does make formatting things a lot easier. And if you want to find a dot grid journal that won't break the bank and you just want something simple to try out with, you can actually find them for super cheap on Amazon. And that's actually what I did when I first started bullet journaling during my senior year of college in like late 2018. Now, of course, bullet journaling isn't all roses. There are some cons as well. One, you will need to set up your bullet journal on a regular basis, so probably monthly and weekly at minimum. Some people might like this, but some people might find it annoying, and it may or may not be time consuming depending on how complex your spreads are. They could be super minimal or they could be super decorative. Lately, I've taken a more minimalist design with my spreads, but I still like to decorate them with pet tape. And now that I do weekly spreads, I have to spend like an hour every weekend, which is something that I didn't have to do before. But I personally don't mind because I like setting up my spreads and getting to use all my stationery. The second con, for people who are just getting into bullet journaling, you may feel pressure to make your spreads really perfect. I know for some people, the desire for perfectionism can be really debilitating and may even lead to discouragement. And the third con, this is speaking from my own experience and also observing other people in the bullet journal community, but you will probably burn out at some point. As someone who spent a lot of time on their spreads before, and even until now, it can feel really tiring having to do it so often, and eventually it just leads into dread. I've taken a break from bullet journaling before. I've watched my friends on Instagram take breaks or just stop indefinitely. It's sad, but it's understandable. Now that the pros and cons are out of the way, I actually wanted to discuss some unintended consequences. And I wanted to separate these from the pros and cons because these are effects of after getting into bullet journaling, and it may not apply to everyone. So of course, let's talk about the positive ones first. The first unintended consequence that I personally experienced was that I learned how to get over my perfectionism. As someone who takes a more artistic approach to bullet journaling, I have gone through my ups and downs of making spreads that I hate and spreads that I love. Through that journey, I also made a lot of mistakes, but I also learned how to cover them up. AmandaRachLee actually has a very good video on this, so I'll link that below, but she goes through various ways you can cover up mistakes, and I use a lot of those strategies to this day. On top of that, even if you make a mistake and it's still kind of noticeable, you probably won't spend that much time looking at it anyway, because next thing you know, it's the next month, it's the next week, and that spread is dead. And after a while of doing this, you condition yourself into not taking those mistakes as seriously, which is a good. This also actually applies to the mental block I used to have with using stickers. And I know some other people struggle with this too, because maybe you get a sticker as like a gift or something and you can't decide where to put it, and you also don't want to use it because like, what if it's the wrong decision? What if it doesn't look good? What if you want to save it for something else? But I learned through so much use of stickers that I can just buy more if I want. It doesn't matter if I like stick in a place and it doesn't look that good. Time is gonna pass, it won't matter. The second unintended consequence that I found to be good was that if you're an artsy person like me, bullet journaling may actually be a good creative outlet for you. So before I got into bullet journaling, I had always kind of had like a inclination to be creative, and I used to draw a lot when I was younger, but I stopped, during my teen years, and then I started getting back into it again when I started bullet journaling because I saw all these beautiful spreads online and I wanted to do that. And at the time, I didn't really have any other creative outlets that involved drawing or painting or junk journaling, so this was the perfect opportunity to not only plan, but do some art along the way. So if you're someone who does like being artsy and creative and you find that you don't don't have a lot of time, then you can kind of do it side by side with planning. And the third good unintended consequence is that you will probably be introduced to a really friendly and supportive community. I found that the bullet journal community on Instagram is super friendly, and I've made a bunch of friends through there. And also they become good sources of inspiration. I see so many different variations of spreads, and I use it as inspiration for my own. Okay, so now let's talk about the negative. This probably happens in any hobbies community, but a negative consequence is that you will probably feel pressure to spend a lot of money. In the stationery world, there is a crap ton of consumerism that happens because a lot of the pretty paper goods you see can't just be cut out from like magazine or newspaper. They have to be designed, printed, and maybe even manufactured. And that goes for other stationery tools like cutting materials, glues, pens, all that. While some of the stuff can be cheap to buy, it'll definitely accumulate over time. And on top of that, there are higher quality products that will cost more money. And you may feel the need to keep up with trends simply because that's what everyone else is doing and you don't want to feel left out. This has happened to me with basically every aspect of bullet journaling and stationery. I first started buying a lot of journals, and then I got into stickers, and then I got into ephemera, and now I'm into, that and pet tape. And nowadays, I've been really focused on trying to be smarter with what I buy because I want to make sure that the things I buy are things that I'm going to use and that I will actually like. The second negative consequence that will probably happen to everybody is that comparison is inevitable. While you're getting inspiration or while you're working on your spreads, you'll probably feel at some point, why does my spread look so ugly? Why can't mine look like so-and-so's? Why can't I get it to look like so-and-so's? You know that quote that goes, comparison is the thief of joy? I think for any visual art, it's a tough thing to deal with and it'll always happen. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is that your bullet journal works for you. Sure, the aesthetics may play a part in it. Maybe the way you decorate your journal is what motivates you to constantly use it, but the functionality comes first. If your spreads are helping you stay organized, if they help you relieve stress, if they help you learn more about yourself, ultimately, that's all that really matters. There's actually something else I wanted to discuss that ties into my previous point, but is also something that stands on its own, which is the topic of the bullet journal community being predominantly women. There are not many guys that I know or follow in the community, and the only person that I do know is Mark from Mark Your Pages, who previously went by Men Who Bullet. I think part of the reason is that if you look up bullet journaling, you are more likely to come across a female content creator or spreads that are super decorative and feminine. So a guy who sees this might think, oh, that's not for me, it's too girly, and just shut down the whole idea of bullet journaling, even though it's meant to be for everyone. Bullet journaling can be made minimalist, it can be made masculine, it could be made however you like. If you're a guy that's watching this, just remember that bullet journaling is meant for everyone and you can make it however you want. For those that were previously unfamiliar with the concept, I hope this video helped shed some light for you and maybe even spark some interest for you to try out bullet journaling for yourself. If any of my fellow bullet journalists are watching this and you have notes to add or thoughts to add, make sure to comment below. And if anyone else has questions about bullet journaling, feel free to ask as well. I would love to hear from you all. Maybe I'll make some more videos on the topic too. We'll see. Anyways, that's all for now. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more content from me. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see y'all in the next video.